Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Hey, Doc, so good to have you here.
Well, it's a pleasure to join you today, Brian, in a period which the today and tomorrow, Brian, are historic or have the potential to be absolutely historic in terms of American political history.
Yesterday's big news was that the FBI report was in, and there was really no, how would you say it, no dirt on Kavanaugh, nothing to back up what Christine Ford said?
Well, it's hard to say, but yes, Grassley, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, made the point that there was nothing there to besmirch Kavanaugh in any way, shape, or form. I think one of the problems is, and we got to talk about this at some length, I think, Brian, is that, of course, Feinstein is trying desperately to prevent this report from being made public. And the problem with that is that if, in fact, it does show that Kavanaugh to be without the kind of activities that he's been charged with, it doesn't give him the chance to show to the public that what he said is basically true. And it also makes you very suspicious because Feinstein's staff, they are the people who released this material from Ford to begin with and started this whole hullabaloo. So
is
now
that true that was her staff? Because she denied that. What do you?
No. I think it's. I think there's at least one staff person in particular that this points to, and now she's trying desperately to prevent this FBI report from being made public. So we'll see today how that plays out. Obviously, somebody's going to leak it one way or another. You can kind of count on that. But the point is, today, McConnell will bring the nomination to a vote on the floor of the Senate and ask for a cloture vote. Now, a cloture vote basically shuts off debate. You have to have 60 votes to impose cloture to shut off debate, which in the Senate, which is the last major legislative body in the world that allows this, you can talk forever and kill something through the filibuster. But with the use of cloture and 60 votes, you can shut it off. Now, whether he'll get the 60 votes or not, I don't know. But whether he gets them or not, he then can move toward a parliamentary procedure which allows him to shut off debate with a simple majority vote. And that, I think, he has the votes for. And, of course, this is something that the Democrats basically started under Harry Reid, allowing this to happen. And so tomorrow will be mostly procedure. Now, if a cloture vote comes out and he gets his 60 votes, it does allow each one of the Democrats to speak, I think, for another hour. So they could drag it out for some time afterwards with a cloture vote. On the other hand, they may still have procedurally some time if he basically turns the parliamentary trick and shuts off debate that way. I'm not sure how much time they get in that respect. But today, really, that's the key. And then the nomination comes up for final vote tomorrow. And again, if Kavanaugh is in fact confirmed, this is historic because, as we've said before, the real concern is Ginsburg and the fairly real possibility that her position is going to be vacant due to her ill health. And
do you think they'll put up another nomination if Kavanaugh gets in right away? Do you think they put up another nomination right away?
Well,
President
no,
Trump?
they don't have they have to have a vacancy. And,
okay, as soon as Ruth Bader Ginsburg
if
announces,
in fact she does step down, yeah, they'll come in with, and it will undoubtedly be a woman. Could even be a Hispanic woman, etc. You could play it out
Question, do you think a woman would be less likely to endure these sorts of accusations that Kavanaugh...
Oh, absolutely. That's the whole idea. So that let's let the Democrats pound on a woman for a while and see how that plays out.
They did it to Sarah Palin.
Yeah, well, I think whoever Trump would pick would be, I think, capable of taking care of herself. Now, again, if the nomination fails, then all this goes by the board. But right now, I think momentum is pretty clearly building toward a favorable vote. Looking back on it, you might say that Senator Flake may well have helped the Republicans out quite a bit by insisting on the FBI report, because now they've given the FBI has looked at it, and basically what this report does is give people like Flake, Collins, Murkowski, and a number of Democrats cover to basically support the nomination.
Do you think, well, let me ask it this way, were you surprised when the FBI report came back as it did, considering the tension between Trump and the intelligence community?
No. I don't think. The FBI was asked to do a job. They they did the job. I think they were pretty good at this. What did surprise me was the speed with which they did it. But my understanding is the Republicans gave them 4 names to look into, and I think the Democrats gave them 12. And I assume they interviewed all these people and have concluded that there's nothing there beyond what Kavanaugh said in the hearings. So it does pretty clearly give cover, I think, to some of these Republicans on the fence. Now, the Democrats, looking at the map, there are 24 Democrat seats up in the Senate in a month or so. And in those seats, 9 of them the Republicans are targeting. And it's interesting because if we look at the figures, for example, in Montana, Trump carried Montana with almost 57% of the vote. He carried North Dakota with 64% of the vote. Now, these are states where you have Democrats trying to get reelected. And what are you thinking here if you vote against Kavanaugh? You're going to have Donald Trump in your state full bore. And, you really don't want that. And you can look at a number of these other states where the Democrats are. For example, in Indiana, the Democrat won and is up for re-election. Trump carried Indiana with over 57% of the vote, plus Vice President Pence comes from Indiana. I don't know what Joe Donnelly's going to do, but if I were Joe Donnelly and wanted to get reelected, I think I would probably find it in my willpower to go along with the Kavanaugh appointment. So there are 4 or 5, maybe 6 Democrats, with the guy from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. Trump carried West Virginia with almost 69% of the vote. He carried over Clinton there by 42%. If I'm Joe Manchin, I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll go along with the Donald on this one. So there's a number of Democrats I think would find it a heck of a lot easier just to go along on this and avoid having Trump running loose in their state in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I must say, the energy that Trump is putting into these midterm elections is it's just incredible. He's the next 6 days he's going to be in 10 states, or 10 days he's going to be in 6 different states campaigning for members of the House. So if I'm a Democrat in one of these states that are kind of up in the air, I'm going to be pretty careful about how I vote on this one. Now, the other aspect of this thing that is really bothersome, and I think it's bothersome to a lot of people, is the tremendous amount of nastiness that some of these members of the Senate have been exposed to. I mean, they apparently have
yelling at people in the hallway, yelling at people in the Capitol, yelling at Ted Cruz and his wife in a restaurant.
Well,
Mitch McConnell at an airport, and they say he has polio, so he's a polio survivor, so he's a little bit more vulnerable.
Well, it's just very, very nasty. And I guess Collins, for example, has to have bodyguards at home now, and on the floor of the in the Senate.
You're talking Susan Collins?
Yeah, not
Chris in Buffalo.
No. I'm talking about Senator Collins. But why put up with the idea that you can be intimidated by this kind of activity? Is the sort of thing I think you want to put to bed, and the way to put it to bed really is to vote for Kavanaugh and show these guys that this sort of garbage just isn't going to work. If they do back off and vote against Kavanaugh because of it, they're just asking for more of this stuff in the future. And I don't think anybody wants it. I just hope nobody gets hurt.
I think a lot of conservative speakers right now are saying that there's a lot of backlash against this group that's accusing Brett Kavanaugh of all these sex offender stuff. There's the conservatives are all saying it's not just the conservatives that don't like this. A lot of women who aren't necessarily conservative are objecting, thinking, hey, I've got a son. Do I want him to go off to college and endure this Title IX type stuff that Brett Kavanaugh has put up with? That's what the conservatives, a lot of them are saying.
Well, I think the idea that this is an accurate reflection of how women feel in the country is simply way, way off base.
What about that? What about the left claiming this is how women feel? Women want Roe v. Wade. Women want abortion. Women think that Brett Kavanaugh is a sex offender. What about that?
Well, I think most women have considerable judgment and are mature enough to understand and can understand what's going on here. And, they may be liberal Democrats. There's a few of them out there running around. In fact, obviously the Democrats have quite a bit of support from the women. But the idea that this represents how women feel about this, I think that's just totally absurd. And they know what's going on here.
Can I say something about the liberal media and their coverage of this Kavanaugh stuff?
You can, but it's well, go ahead.
I know. They're big. I'm small. They're in big places. I'm in a small town. I understand it. But the irritable nature of them getting the public all worked up and angry is ridiculous. Although you have to separate the average person from the paid activists, who it always turns out to be, Doc, to create the false impression that everyone's flipping out.
Right. The other side of it is in the race for the House of Representatives, the Democrats and the liberals and activists have focused on something like, I think, 20 seats, and they are pouring millions and millions of dollars into these campaigns against the Republican incumbents. And so the idea that the Democrats are going to take over the House, I still say that's a pretty far-fetched. But, they're going to lose some. But you always have some of these races that kind of slip out from under the microscope there. And one of them is the one in New Jersey for the Senate, where the Democrat is running for re-election, and he's in a pretty tight race right now because the man was indicted, was tried, and basically walked out because the jury hung. So he wasn't convicted, but I'm not certain he was declared innocent either. And but it is New Jersey, so I don't know what they'll end up doing there. But then in Arizona, I think it's for Flake's seat, the Democrat is running very, very tight with the Republicans. So those are seats that could flip outside of the ones that everybody's targeting. And I think the same sort of thing can happen in the House of Representatives.
Oh, we're going to take a quick break. Back in just a moment.
Selecting a nursing home for a loved one isn't easy until you've discovered Hornell Gardens Nursing and Rehabilitation. Hornell Gardens delivers the highest level of care, compassion, and commitment with amenities and activities that will enrich body, mind, and spirit. It's a place that's close to home. Stop in for a tour of Hornell Gardens, located at 434 Monroe Avenue in Hornell, or to learn more, call 585-222-CARE or visit hurlbutcare.com.
Checking in now with the meteorologist, Rob Carolyn. What was that?
What was that beep? It was time to tell you it's time to rock and roll, Brian. Wow, did you step on a duck? You did step on a duck. Weather-wise, we've got some sunshine developing across the southern tier this morning, Brian. We also have some cooler temperatures out there. Looks like today's highs are only going to be about 60 to 65. Canadian high-pressure system that actually to our west is helping to produce some snow from upper Michigan across Minnesota and into the Dakotas. Some of that cooler weather is bleeding into our area today, and that's why we're going to be on the cool side. Sunrise this morning was at 7:13. Tonight the sun will set at 6:44. We've already lost a half an hour of daylight since the 21st of the month of September. Clouds tonight, we're down to 50 to 55. Warmer weather returns tomorrow, so the clouds are with us throughout the day. We may see a stray shower in the afternoon. We're up to about 75 to 80. Scattered showers are possible tomorrow night, 60 to 65. Sunday, the showers end in the afternoon, 75 to 80. Turns partly sunny, and it's warm Columbus Day, Brian. Highs 75 to 80.
Back with Dr. Robert A. Heineman, political science professor emeritus, Alfred University. Doc,
Thought perhaps we should tell our folks about what's happening in Albany. Hello?
and we talking about Mark Molinaro?
And we're talking about Mr. Cuomo and Cynthia Nixon.
What is the latest?
Well, the latest is, Brian, thank you for asking, that the Working Families Party is working very fast and hard to move Nixon off the ballot. And apparently Nixon and, Juan Williams have both said that they're not interested really in running here in November on the Working Families line. So they got to get him off somehow, and I assume they will put Cuomo on there in their place, although I suppose they could leave it blank. I don't know. But the problem is they got to be moving on this pretty fast because the ballots are going to be printed, and I think they have to go out at least a month before the election because of our servicemen overseas, servicemen and women overseas. So they've got about, 2 or 3 days, I think, to get this change made. But they apparently are going to do it. Now, if that happens, which it probably will, then it'll be Cuomo against Molinaro, and that's going to be a lot tougher on Molinaro, despite all the problems that Cuomo's carrying.
What about the effect of Larry Sharp,
Well,
the Libertarian?
he's going to hurt Molinaro. I don't think there's any question about that.
What do you make of that new Siena College poll that said that Cuomo was way ahead of Molinaro, but nobody knew who Molinaro was, and Larry Sharp got even less? Do you believe that?
Well, I think Molinaro clearly has a name recognition problem, yeah. And part of that is the lack of finances. But, of course, the fact that Cuomo is the incumbent governor and takes every opportunity, not maybe quite as bad as Senator Schumer, but takes every opportunity to get his. The other day I thought I saw him with a little doggy. There was Governor Cuomo and a little doggy that Cuomo had just enacted some piece of legislation that in an emergency you can take.
Well, that was on Empire Reports page,
take your little doggies.
The picture
with
of the holding the dog up to his face, yeah.
And whatever. Well, that's heartwarming. Just heartwarming. Yes.
On Senator Schumer,
Yes.
did he hurt himself at all? I mean, he can't lose in New York State, but did he, in any way, is he going to pick up any negatives from
the
way he treated Kavanaugh?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question about it.
Because Schumer had a lot of innuendo going on there.
Well, I don't know about that, but he's the one that if he'd stayed, when Gorsuch came up for nomination, if Schumer had just let the filibuster process play its way out and have allowed, have stayed away from the cloture vote and allowed Gorsuch to be voted on, majority vote, whatever, but instead he forced the cloture issue, and McConnell just came in and applied what the Democrats had been doing for lower judges and just used the parliamentary maneuver. If Schumer had stayed away from that and let Gorsuch go ahead and be confirmed, which he was anyway, now Schumer could, in fact, come back and try to impose cloture on a Supreme Court nominee. But he can't do it now, and so, the opportunity is gone.
As far as the New York Senators go, it's kind of surprising, too. This was Kirsten Gillibrand's issue, this whole Me Too thing, and before Schumer. But Schumer has stolen the limelight a lot and gotten a lot more attention than Gillibrand has. Gillibrand's held back a lot more. Why do you think that is?
She's up for re-election. That's one of the reasons. And I think a number now of candidates running for the Senate have made it clear that they will not support Schumer if they get the majority in the Senate for majority leader. So he's irritated a number of other candidates out there. Now, I don't know whether they're incumbents or...
These are Democrats.
Yes.
And they say no because of the Kavanaugh performance?
I don't know exactly what it is that has them turned off about Schumer, but I don't think this is helping him at all, no.
We've been talking to Dr. Robert A. Heineman, political science professor emeritus, Alfred University. Was there anything I did not bring up that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we covered the important points here. And again, like today and tomorrow are going to be, we'll just have to see how it works out. But if Kavanaugh, in fact, is confirmed, then I think we have to talk about some of the implications there, which are, I think...
Follow-up question there. How do you think Kavanaugh will react as far as his decisions go? Will the liberals have scared the heck out of him so he's very cautious and meek and mild and go the other way? Or will he be ticked off and say, hey, screw you guys on the issues? How's he going to react?
Well, I think he'll try to be impartial as a judge, but he's certainly not going to harbor much goodwill, I think, for some of these liberal activist positions. And again, one of my friends pointed out to me the other day, Elena Kagan, who's on the court, who is liberal and very, very bright, when she was dean of Harvard Law School, she hired Kavanaugh to teach at Harvard for her. I mean, that's how good he is, frankly. And I think he finished top of his class, actually. So the guy is very bright and very credible. And so, you get, I can see where he'd be a little honked off. But when you got a specific case involving specific issues, this sort of thing begins to drop into the background. Yeah.
He goes by Dr. Bob. We're out of time. I'm Brian O'Neill. Got to fly. See you. Bye.
Bye.